Hello, good day. This is Arvin Alonzo demonstrating to you the use of IT application tools. Now, the purpose of this is demonstrating how to maximize the available IT application tools or software in our computers. Tables are actually very important in statistics. Tables are important in order to show a summary of the data available. Tables are actually what we use to normally show our findings on certain research or studies, or even in the reports that we generate in the organization where we belong. Now, in this video presentation, I will use Google Sheets. First, this is one of the applications of Google Workspace to demonstrate how to prepare tables out of the datasets available. Now, in Google Sheets, I will show three different ways to prepare a summary table. Let's get started. Okay? So, first, we will open Google Chrome as our web browser. Now, be sure that you are logged in with the Google. So, assuming that we are logged in, the first thing that we're going to do in order for us to open Google Sheets is to click the Google Apps button on the right portion of your Google Chrome. Click this one, and then these are the different applications of Google Workspace. So we will click Sheets here, and if you have an existing worksheet with Google Sheets, then you just select from the available files that you have. Scroll down, or if you want to begin with a Google Sheet file, then click blank or any of the templates available at hand. So I will use data for table creation for my demonstration, assuming that we have this table, and this table or data sets would show us the faculty rank of 174 respondents together with their length of service, the college they belong, and the designation, if any. And we would like to prepare a summary for these four columns. Okay. First, be sure that you rename your sheet into data. How to rename it? Right click on this and then click rename. So I have here data as my file for the raw data that I have. And then you can click this plus sign or add sheet button if you would like to have a new sheet. So we click this one. We now have sheet 3. You can also rename this one. Say we rename it as summary underscore table. So here you're going to prepare some of the tables that you need. Okay, assuming that this will be my uh, heading for the first table that we're going to create. So I have a column for the rank, the number, and the percentage based on rank. Okay, so we have here instructor 1, and then I'll just click this field handle up to instructor 3, and then we have assistant professor 1 up to 4. So I'll click and drag up to 4, and then we'll have associate professor 1. Again, click and drag the fill handle. This is up to 5. And then professor 1. This is up to 6. So how to get the number of instructor ones in our data. We will be using Countif function to get the value here. Take note, we have the data sheet here, and in our data sheet, we can just make use of column B, starting from B2 up to B175. So going back to our sum table sheet, we now have our formula. Count if, and then the range, data, exclamation point, B2 to B175, comma, what will be your criterion or criterion to get the number of instructor ones. We can make use of the value here in A7. So we'll just have A7. A7 is actually instructor 1. Okay? So we have count if data B2 to B175, comma A7. Take note, data B2, B175 will be the data range, and A7 will be our criterion, and that is instructor 1. Okay, press enter. Now, go back to this and press F2 to activate it or for editing. Press F4 here so that we will convert B2 to B175 as an absolute reference. Meaning when you copy and paste it in the next rows, the data range will not change. So copy and then paste it on the other cells. So we now have the summary of the different faculty rank positions. And perhaps we can have equals sum of uh, B7 to B24 here to get the total. So we have 174 respondents. Now, if we would like to get the percentage of the percentage of instructor 1, and so on and so forth, then we can just have a formula equals, perhaps we can already include round here as a function to round off to, for example, 2 decimal places. So we have B2, B7 I should say, over dollar sign B dollar sign 25, so that B25 will be an absolute reference times 100%, comma 2 decimal places. So copy or click the fill handle. So we now have this one. So this table now tells you that there are 68 instructor 1s, 3 instructor 2, and so on and so forth. So you can just create a format for this, like putting a border or putting a shade or fill color, and so on and so forth. Okay, for our second method, I'll be demonstrating how to use query as a function, and it's actually a very powerful function that we can utilize in Google Sheets. So we start our function with query, open parentheses, and then the first is to identify the data range. So here we have data exclamation point A1 to E175. Here I am getting the entire table in our data sheet. So from A1 up to the last value that we have here. So going back, so we have data A1 to E175, or you can also select a certain column only for your table. And then the second argument is select. This is the SQL part. Select column B. Here you are going to select what columns are you going to display, and even computations that you would like to show in your table. And in this case, we're going to select only column B, and then we will have a function to count the number of instructor 1, 2, and so on and so forth based on rank. So count B, and then we'll have a parameter group by, this is our condition in counting, group by B, group according to rank. And then we'll put 1 here as our argument or value representing that the first row in our table is for the heading. So we'll press enter, see what happens. Oops. Let us look into the error. So the error is on double quotation mark. The double quotation mark should be after the B. Okay, enter. Okay, so we now have the summary. But take note, there's a slight difference on our table here with the table that we have here. Automatically, the values for rank is arranged in alphabetical order. And those faculty ranks that have no value or zero value were not included. So, in this case, normally when we present a data for a certain study or research, we have to put even those items that have a zero value. Meaning to say that this table, the first table that we have, is better to use in those cases. So that is using query. With only one function, again, with only one function, automatically it gave you the exact summary. Okay, the third method that I'm going to present to you is using pivot table. Pivot table in Google Sheet is available under Data tab, and then select pivot table. So the first thing that you're going to do is to select the range. If you know exactly the data range, you can type it directly here. If not, click this button to select, and then go to the sheet where the data is. So here we have A1 to A175. Click OK. And then where are you going to insert the pivot table? Is it on the existing sheet, or you would like it to have it in a new sheet? So here we're going to use existing sheet. So based on our table, we're going to place it in I6. So I will place I6 here. Create. So we now have here the pivot table editor on our right pane. First, we're going to click add for rows, and then we will select faculty rank. If you have some columns to add, then select the columns that you would like to generate. For values, we will have faculty rank, and it should be summarized count A. There are other functions that we can use here, such as sum, count, and so on and so forth. But we are going here to use here count A. You notice that pivot table has given you the result. Okay? So that's it for the use of pivot table in getting a summary from the data sets we have. Now, what if we would like to add certain columns into our pivot table? Say, for example, we would like to see how many are instructor ones or assistant professors or associate professors or professors per college. So we can add column into it. So click add and then we will select college. Okay, let me close the pivot table editor. You now see that we have here the summary of the pivot table. Okay, for our next table, we're going to make a summary of the length of service. But this time, you're going to make use of interval. So we go back to our summary table sheet. I will demonstrate to you two ways to get the summary of the length of service. First, I will be using the function frequency. And when we make use of frequency, we have to have a bin. Assuming that our class interval will be from 0 to 5, 10, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, 21 to 25, and then we have 26 to 30, and then above, 30 and above. So I'll be having this for my bin, which will serve as a guide or as my criterion in the use of frequency. So for this, we type equals frequency, since we are looking into the frequency. And then the data. The data comes from our data sheet. Let us just check. Data from C2 to C175. Let us click the sum table sheet, going back to this, and then comma, the classes, the bin. So here we are going to get I30 to I36 or 35. Okay. Close and then enter. You notice that it gave you immediately the number of frequencies for each class interval. And of course, then we're going to compute the percentage. First, we have to get the sum. So sum B30 to B36, 38. B32 to 38. So we have 174 respondents. Let me just format this one with border. So we get the percentage again equals B32 over dollar sign B dollar sign 39 times 100. Now, if we would like to round off to two decimal places, then we place the round function comma 2. Autofill, click check. Then we have the value. So that's it. That's for frequency. So take note, you have to create a class interval and the size of the class interval should be the same. Okay. We proceed to the next one. In this table, I will demonstrate how to make use of countif and countifs function. Countif is used uh, when there's a single criterion, I should say, one criterion, and countifs can be used when there are two or more criteria. So for the first one, we can have one criteria. So countif, and then again the range. If you know the range, you can directly type data exclamation point C2 to C175. By the way, if you would like this one to be an absolute cell reference, you just press F4 later on. Then for the second argument, create the criterion. Here, we're going to have less than or equal to 5 because the class interval says 5 and below. Take note that it should be placed in a double quotation mark. Close. So we have 50. Shall we use autofill? No. In the second row, we will be using countifs function. Okay. We will be using two criteria, I should say. Data exclamation point C2 to C175, comma, what's your first criterion? Here, we're going to use greater than or equal to 6 because we're going to get 6 to 10. Or simply, you can make use of greater than 5, meaning from 6 upward. So it depends on how you're going to construct your condition. Comma, we have the second criterion, but we're going to use the same source. So data exclamation point C2 to C175, comma, the second condition is less than or equal to 10. Close parenthesis. Then enter. Okay. So what you need to do here is you may copy this one and then paste it here, but be sure to edit. Okay. Edit the criteria. Here we're going to use greater than 10 and then less than or equal to 15. Then continue with the next. You have less than or equal to 20, greater than 15. Take note, you can have greater than or equal to 16 here. And then here, you'll have 25, less than or equal to 25. And then here, greater than 20. Or greater than or equal to 21. For this one, we have 30. And then the first condition would be 25. By the way, let me change the class interval here. This should be 26 to 30. The same as true with the first table, 26 to 30. Okay. And for the last one, we will be using count function, countif function. Let me just copy this one and place it here. This time, I will be using greater than or equal to 31. So let us check. Let's copy and paste this one and check it here. Sum of F32 to F38. And perhaps we can just copy this formula for the percentage and place it here. Then click drag. So we have the same result with the frequency function. Okay, so that's how you can get the length of service based on class interval. And when we make use of class interval, we will make use of frequency. The second column here is your frequency, the number of occurrences for each class interval. Okay, so that's for the length of service. So for the third table, we're going to make a summarized or a summary table, I should say, for the faculty profile according to college where they belong. So let us have first the colleges. We have CAHAS, CBEA, CHM, CTED, CILO, and graduate school. Okay, so here you can have count if, again, our data range, data exclamation point. This time, it is in column D. So you can highlight if you want to, or simply type the range D2 to D175, comma, condition, CAS, enter. So there are 33 faculty members under CAHAS. Let us just check this one and press F4 here to make an absolute reference. Why? So that I'll just copy and paste it here and then just edit the condition. This time, CBEA for the second row, CHM, and then CTED. I think we made use of CTE here. So be sure that you have the correct condition here. So instead of CTED, I made use of CTE for the data set. Then we have CILO, and then graduate school. Let me check. Okay. So sum, let us check, just check the total. B47 to B52. So exactly we have this one. Then percentage equals, let us just round off to 2 decimal places, round, and then we have B47 over dollar sign B dollar sign 53 for the total times 100% and then 2 decimal places. Oh, we should have made use of autofill anyway. We can just have this one. So there we have our table for this. Okay, for our next table, we are going to use query. So we start with query, and then first we get the data range, data exclamation point, even if you're going to get the entire data set. So we start with A1 to E175. There are 5 columns in our data set. And then the select statement. By the way, we start our select statement with double quotation mark. Select column D, where the colleges are, the college values are located. And then comma, we're going to count how many are there in each college. So count D, and then we are going to group by D, and then close double quotation, comma 1 is the heading, enter. So we now have the different colleges. Again, we have CAS, CBEA, CHM, SILO, CTE, Graduate School. We have the same result with that of the Countif function. So here we just cut paste the percentage. We have the same values. So that's it for table 3. Okay, for our table 4, we will be grouping the faculty members according to designation. But in this case, I only have designations by level. So I had designation in by university level, campus level, college level, and none. Okay, what we were going to look into this is how many faculty members are designated in the university and in the campus, in the college, and those that do not have designations. Okay, so we'll be using count if function here. Count if the source is data exclamation point E2 to E175. E2 to E175 is the column for designation, if any. Okay, so let's press F2 to continue. What is the criteria or criterion, I should say? University level. Close parenthesis, enter. Going back to this, let me just press F4 under the data range so that it will become an absolute reference. I will copy it, press F2 to edit, and then paste, and then just change this one into campus level. The same as true, press F2, paste. I will change this one into college level. And then here, paste, and the criterion will be none. Okay, sum of B58 to B61. Then for the percentage, let us just copy one value here, paste it here, and then click and drag if you want to. So we have the data set. Let me just format this one with borders. Okay, let's try to copy this one and have the second method using the query function. So we have query, the source, data exclamation point, A1 to E175, comma, We have the select statement, select column E, and then count column E based on designation value, group by column E. Close double quotation, and then one for the heading. Enter. So we now have the value here. Perhaps we can just copy this one and paste it in the third column. Okay. Copy this one too and have it here. Then format with border. So we have the same value but different arrangements of designation. So I hope you learned something new in this video presentation and be able to prepare your tables based on the datasets available in your or based on the datasets available. God bless everyone. Thank you for watching.